Great. All right, everyone, we're going to go ahead and get started. First off, hello, everyone, and welcome to the information session for the 2027 Artist Support Grant application. I'm going to go ahead and jump right in, but first I wanted to introduce myself. My name is Alyssa Wise, and I am the new Community Arts Coordinator for United Arts Wake County, and I am the direct contact for this program. If you have any questions, need assistance, or have any accessibility requests, you may reach out to me. Also joining us is Reagan Carlisle, who is the Vice President of Programming for United Arts Wake County, and she is here to answer any questions that may come up. Right. So today I'll be talking about the Artist Support Grant Program eligibility requirements for applicants, the application itself, as well as the application review process. We will have time at the end for questions, so feel free to hold questions until the end of the presentation. If you have extremely specific questions about your individual application or proposal, I encourage you to reach out to me directly via email so we may discuss your application one-on-one after the session. And also, if any questions come up, feel free to pop them in the chat and we will get to them at the end of this session. This session will be recorded and posted on the United Arts website and YouTube page for continued reference. The Spanish version of this presentation will also be added to the United Arts website. There are auto-generated captions available for your use. Just click the CC icon on your screen to enable those. Again, we will have time for a Q&A session at the end of the presentation. So again, feel free to submit any questions in the chat as we go along. Real quickly, for those of you who are not aware of United Arts Wake County or who we are, I just wanted to mention that United Arts offers all kinds of support to the county through schools, art organizations, municipalities, and individual artists. We manage the Artists in Schools program, multiple grant programs for organizations and towns, arts integration programs for educators, Awake Murals program, placing murals around the county, as well as our Teaching Artists Incubator, and of course, the Artist Support program that we were talking about today. United Arts manages the Artist Support Grant Program, which is funded by United Arts, the North Carolina Arts Council, and Raleigh Arts. United Arts distributes Artist Support Grant funds for 5 counties: Wake, Harnett, Chatham, Johnson, and Lee. If you reside in one of those counties, you are in the right place. If you reside in a different county, please visit the North Carolina Arts Council website to find the correct arts council that manages the Artist Support Grant program for your county. Through this program, individual artists as well as unincorporated groups of collaborating artists can apply for up to $1,500 to support their professional and artistic development. The current application is for funding for the 2027 calendar year, so awarded funds must be spent between January and December of 2027, and the deadline to apply for this cycle of funding is September 1st, 2026. Okay, so who is eligible to apply for these funds? Artist support grants are open to all genres and artistic disciplines. Artists at any stage of their career may apply, whether you are just starting out or have been an established artist for years, you are eligible to apply. This program is for individual artists, but also groups of unincorporated artists may also apply. Meaning, if you are a part of a music group or an artist collective or as a group of artists, or are collaborating with one or more artists on a project, you are welcome to apply as a group of artists and not as an incorporated business. For example, if your rap group is an LLC, you cannot apply as the LLC, but you could apply as an individual artist. If you have specific questions about your situation, feel free to email me before starting your application. All applicants must be at least 18 years of age to apply, be a U.S. citizen or permanent resident, and must currently reside in one of the 5 county areas for this program: Chatham, Harnett, Johnson, Lee, or Wake County. Not only do applicants need to reside in one of these counties, but they must have lived within those counties for at least 1 year from the application deadline. So As long as you have lived in one or more of these counties since or before September 1st, 2025, you are eligible. If you reside in another county, reach out to your county's Arts Council for their grant application. And finally, previous grantees must wait at least 2 years to apply again. So if you were awarded funds through this program for 2025 or 2026, you cannot apply this year. And remember, if you are applying as a group, then all members must meet all eligibility requirements. Now that we know who is eligible, let's talk about who is not eligible to apply. These are specific situations that do not apply to most folk, but if they apply to you or you're not sure if they apply to you, please email me before writing your application. Groups that have received any form of direct funding from the North Carolina Arts Council for 2025 or 2026 are not eligible to apply to this program. Current board and staff members of Chatham Arts Chatham Arts Council, Harnett County Government, Johnston County Arts Council, Lee County Arts Council, United Arts Council, as well as their immediate family members are not eligible to receive funds through this program due to a conflict of interest. So I cannot apply for this grant, Arts Council board members cannot apply, and neither can their children or spouses. Another ineligible group is current enrolled students. Students enrolled in any degree-seeking program may not apply for funding. However, if you will be graduating before the 2027 calendar year begins, you may still apply as you will not be actively enrolled during the grant project period, which is calendar year 2026. As I said before, 2025 and 2026 grantees may not apply for funding for this cycle. All right, so what exactly does the Artist Support Grant fund? What types of items can you request funding in for your application? This program is designed to support the growth of artists, so there are a wide variety of things you can apply for funding for. Some examples of appropriate requests would be to fund a specific project that will enhance your skills or allow you to experiment with new tools or skills, an idea or project that will enhance your abilities to create work or your capacity to bring your work to new audiences. Now, you don't need a specific project to apply with. Applicants may also request funding for general items that will help them grow their careers, such as creating or presenting new work, like buying art supplies, equipment, renting studio space, or purchasing frames for new work. Funds may go towards promoting your career, such as costs for web hosting or design, documenting work, or other marketing costs. Training, such as attending workshops or conferences, as well as relevant travel expenses, such as gas, hotel, and food costs incurred during a trip to a conference, photo shoot, or traveling to various locations for a film shoot, for instance. These are all examples of appropriate funding requests, and it is not an exhaustive list. So I want to take a second to emphasize that this program aims directly to fund artists by putting unrestricted funds into artists' hands. Meaning, when you apply for funding, up to half of your budget may be used to pay yourself. We refer to this as an artist fee, and these are funds that can be kept for yourself for any use and does not need to be reported to us on how it was spent. Basically, if you write your application requesting the full $1,500 and you have half or $700 going towards marketing, supplies, or other appropriate costs, then the remaining half can be a $750 artist fee that you may keep for yourself. If you are requesting $1,000, then up to $500 can be used to your artist fee, and so on. So half of your grant funds may be kept to pay for yourself. So while there are a large variety of things this grant will fund, there are some things that are ineligible requests for funding. Applications requesting funding for these items will not be considered. So be sure to stay away from requests for funding going towards any tuition or costs, such as textbooks or lab fees for degree-seeking programs. Remember, currently enrolled students are not eligible to apply to this program. Projects that support or oppose a political campaign or candidate or are exclusive to certain religious groups will also not be eligible. If your project involves working with an initiative of a nonprofit organization that would benefit from these funds, that is also an ineligible request, as these funds are for individuals and not organizations. There are separate funding sources for organizations. And lastly, any funding requests should be focused on your growth and development as an artist. So if your application doesn't include anything that would help benefit your practice or your career, it would not be highly scored. All right, so here's the rubric for the application to help give you an idea of how to fulfill these three areas of evaluation. This rubric and all materials I'm going to go over today are found on the United Arts website under Grants, Artist Support Grants, and you are able to view and download the guidelines and rubric in both English and Spanish. This rubric and information is shared with our community panelists and used to review and score applications during the review process. So there are three areas to focus on in your application are artistic merit, project feasibility, and professional development. I'll review what that means to score highly in these areas, but do take time to read through this rubric before you submit your application. Artistic merit means the applicant shows a serious commitment to pursuing or maintaining a career in the arts. For example, a painter who is trying to display their work in galleries or learn new techniques would score higher than someone who paints for fun on the weekends or just occasionally. Another example would be a photographer who only shoots weddings. A wedding photographer would not score as high as a photographer who creates their own concepts for photo shoots. That photographer's work would be considered more culturally significant as an artistic practice than a gig photographer. We understand gig work pays the bills, but if it is the only work that you are making, you would not score as high in the artistic merit category as someone who is also pursuing independent photographic work. Project feasibility means that your goals are realistic and achievable, that your project is likely to be successful. Another example, a band who has been performing together for a while looking to cut their first record would be more feasible than, say, someone who has just picked up an instrument trying to record an album straight away. So your goals for this funding should align with where you are in your career. The last area is professional development. The last area is professional development, or or if this funding would be meaningful in expanding and or promoting the applicant's career. A sculptor requesting funds to supplies to create a new body of work in order to apply exhibitions would score higher than a sculptor requesting funding for supplies without any goals of how they would improve their skills, practice, or career as an artist. Your application should include how the funded items would help you grow as an artist. Now I'll talk about the review process for applications. Once all applications have been submitted, they are first reviewed by United Arts staff to ensure each application is fully eligible, meets residency requirements, etc. Eligible applications are then sorted into groups based on artistic discipline, and each group is reviewed by a community panel. Each panel consists of 3 community panelists who will review and score the applications based on that same rubric I just went over. Panelists are assigned based on their knowledge and expertise of each respective artistic discipline. So the music apps are reviewed by musicians, dance apps are reviewed by dancers, etc. Selected panelists might be established artists, art professors, art administrators, or otherwise experienced and knowledgeable about their discipline. Panelists are anonymous. After the panel review process, funding recommendations are reviewed and must be approved by both United Arts staff and United Arts Board. All applicants are notified of their funding status in December 2026, and grant funds are awarded to grantees at the start of the 2027 calendar year. Okay, so now I will go over the application itself. We use a platform called Submittable for our application. If you have never used the Submittable platform, you will have to make an account, but it's completely free. And the great thing about Submittable is that it will save your progress within the application once you sign in. Links to the guidelines, rubric, and application in both English and Spanish can be found on our Artist Support Grant page. So, and can everyone see the United Arts website? Right. I'm gonna tell you yes.
Yes, so, we can see it.
Oh, perfect. Thank you. So this is our main website. To get to the application, you will go to the community tab and then click on grants, and you would scroll down, and here's the link to the Artist Support Grants page. Once you click on the Artist Support Grants page, you will find all of the information regarding the Artist Support Grant application. And the application link is here below. Okay, so here is the application. My biggest advice is to read all of the instructions thoroughly and carefully for each section. Don't rush through this application or try to complete it all in one night before it is due. The first section is identifying and contact information. So your name or group name, address, contact information, and basic details about you. There's also a section asking about your demographic information, which is self-identified and optional. The next section is about you as an artist. So So things like your artistic discipline, or if you have a website or any social media page for your practice. We also ask for an artistic statement or cover letter, We also ask for an artistic statement and CV or resume. Pre-existing ones are fine, and if you don't have either one of those items already, I strongly recommend saving copies for future use. So here's the artistic CV or resume. Okay, the next section is where you put the grant amount request, and this number cannot exceed $1,500. You will be asked to summarize your funding request, just a simple statement of what you are looking to fund. This is where we get into the meat of the application, where we ask for a full project description, which is where you can lay out the who, what, when, where, and why, and how of your project. Be sure to include attainable project goals and how you plan to reach them. Under the budget, the next section is budget. There you go. And remember, up to 50% of your funds can be kept to pay for yourself as an artistic fee. Expenses are things you are looking for the grant funds to pay for. There's also a project income area where you can list other sources of funding if you will have contributing funds in addition to this grant. Having additional funds for your project is not a requirement, but it does show the panel your commitment to your project. Under the budget, we ask you to document your budget, meaning how did you come up with the numbers in your budget? For example, maybe you requested $200 for a new recording microphone, $300 to hire a sound engineer, $200 for web design, and $50 to cover your transportation to the recording studio. To strengthen this request, you should try to document where those numbers came from. So you'd include a screenshot of the mic and the cost from an audio supply store, and a screenshot from an audio engineer's website listing costs and services, a copy of the quote for web design from a designer, and a list of bus fare rates. This section is optional, but strongly encouraged as it goes a long way in strengthening your request because it shows that you put the time, planning, and thought into your budget. Next up is work samples, and you can upload these directly to a link or to an online portfolio. Please read through and follow the work sample instructions before uploading your samples, as they are very specific to each artistic discipline. There is an optional section if you have letters of recommendation, right here, or any other supporting documents you may like to include. Again, this section is optional, but providing these documents can strengthen your application. At the very end of this application, we have a couple of questions to collect data on how applicants have heard about this opportunity, as well as a certification of that you have read the guidelines and are eligible for funding. That all work included in the application is yours and that all information is given and accurate. Remember, you are able to save your progress within the submittable portal as you complete your application. If you would like feedback on your application, please email me to set up a consultation. Just be sure to email me with plenty of time before the deadline. If you ask for feedback the day before September 1st, I may not be able to accommodate that request. All right, so let's go back to my slides. All right, back to my slides. And just a couple of things I wanted to reiterate. For your budget, remember, all funds must be spent during the project period, which is the calendar year of 2027 for this cycle. Up to 50% of your budget can be kept to pay yourself as an artist fee, and all the items in your budget should be consistent with your project description and overall goals for the funding. And a couple of more things about work samples. Be sure to include them. They should be high quality images, videos, or other file types, and it should be relevant to your funding request. So if you paint, weld, build furniture, or make music, but your application is only about your paintings, then you should not include samples of those unrelated projects. Uploaded samples should be of your own work, and no one should ever claim another person's work as their own. A key thing to remember, panelists will only have access to what you provide. They cannot and will not spend extra time tracking down your work online if it is not included or linked within your application. So be sure to include everything that you want them to see in your application. Okay, so this is my last slide, and then I'll open the door for questions. All applicants will be notified in December 2026 if they have been selected for a grant or not. If you do not receive funding, there's a grantee agreement that, oh, excuse me, so sorry. If you do receive funding, there is a grantee agreement that all grantees must sign before receiving funds. Once that is signed, you will receive the entirety of your funds upfront. Within that agreement, there will be details on how to credit United Arts Wake County for your grant, as well as other things to know as a grantee. I also host a grantee workshop each year with more details and to answer any questions, but I'm also available year-round for additional support. All funds must be spent by December 31st, 2027, and there's a very simple final report that is required for all grantees to submit. Again, all of the information is shared with grantees after they receive funding. Okay, so that is all I have. So if anyone has any questions, feel free to unmute yourself or pop them in the chat. Reagan, I think you are monitoring the chat. And a reminder, if you have extremely specific questions, please email me directly so I have enough time to address them as soon as possible. And if you need any additional help or a one-on-one consultation, please email me to set that up before the September 1st deadline. Okay. So does anyone have questions? I'm going to stop sharing my screen.
Hello, thank you for the presentation. It's very helpful. I do have a question regarding multiple submissions or multiple proposals. If I were interested in doing one for like my for individual work and then one for a collaborative project, would that be okay?
May I take that one, Alyssa?
Go ahead.
Yeah, so you should only submit one application. You need to pick the project that is the strongest project. And if you want Alyssa to kind of weigh in on which one is the strongest, and the strongest is the one that of those evaluation criteria, does it really further your career? Are your work samples really supporting it? Does the budget make a lot of sense? That would be a more competitive application. So that's how I would suggest helping you narrow down which one to submit.
Okay, thank you.
There are a couple of questions in the chat. Let's see. If the group of artists is a rotating roster, does that have any bearing on the eligibility since their involvement is inconsistent? A little, yeah, because if it's a group of artists, every single specific person has to meet those eligibility criteria. And if it's a rotating roster, then we would not be able to verify the eligibility of each individual artist in that group. It says how many people will be selected for a grant. This year, 43. 43 people received grant funds, artist support grants for the 2026 calendar year. And then let's see, how much emphasis do reviewers place on the artistic refinement of existing work versus creating something entirely new? Well, when they're looking at your artistic merit, they are looking at the body of work as you have shared in the work samples that you are submitting in the application. So they are going to look at that to figure out, are you an avocational artist or are you a career artist? So that is something that they will consider. But I have definitely seen people score well when they're saying, this is my body of work in the past, but I want to try this new thing for these very specific reasons, and this is how it will affect my artistic career. And they scored well. So a lot of the onus is on you to be able to articulate how your proposed project will further your career and how it is just right for you in this moment in your career. Okay, and it looks like Josh has your hand raised if you want to unmute and ask.
Oh, okay, thank you. Yeah, can you hear me well? Okay, so I was wondering if this is maybe a larger project and the budget. Multi-part question, do you disclose like the overall amount of the budget and what this grant would be allocated towards, or would you prefer to fund smaller projects that could put use to the 1,500 for the entire project?
I've seen it go both ways. So it really depends on what the project is. Like, first of all, they're looking for a budget that makes sense. Like, if you were like, I would like to travel the entire western part of the United States to photograph every national park. I don't know. I'm just making stuff up, right? And then you were like, that's only going to cost me $600 for me to travel for 6 months. And we were like, well, that doesn't seem very reasonable. And then they would look at the budget and be a little suspicious that you didn't quite think through the full scope of the project that you are proposing. Okay, so that's one thing. So does the budget make sense? Beyond that, sometimes if a project costs more than $1,500 and an artist is putting in, either they have other funding sources or they're putting in some of their own money, it does show the panel that you are serious about getting this project done. So, but once again, like, what is the project? Like, that's a kind of a nuanced question, but I have seen projects get funded both ways. If the full cost was $1,500 or the full cost was $10,000 and they need this $1,500 for these very specific reasons. Does that help, Josh?
Yeah, so you basically just have to do a good job of explaining how that fits into how that works for exactly where the money's going.
Yes.
Okay,
Good,
gotcha. Thank you.
doing a good job of explaining will help every application because the panelists, they may have heard of you or may know you, but they probably won't. And so as clear as you can be, it will only help your application be that much more competitive.
Okay, great. Thank you.
You're welcome. It says how many will be selected for 2027? We don't know because even though we say you can ask for up to $1,500, that is not every applicant asks for the full amount, and not every strong applicant asks for the full amount. So let's see, if there was a person who scored really, really well and they're only asking for $500, that would affect the number of applications that we're able to fund. Our budget, so United Arts is on a fiscal year that starts July 1st. Our board has not approved our budget for next year, so we don't actually know yet. We will know by the time the panels convene in November. But at this point on July 22nd, we don't know exactly. I would expect around the same number of this year, maybe 43 or so, but it really depends on who applies. Trinity is asking what types of marketing expenses have been successfully funded in the past. I've seen taking like there's website stuff that seems to be fairly common. Like I want to take pictures of stuff to go on the website, or I need a website designer to help put stuff on the website. I've seen, gosh, I'm trying to think of other examples right now. I'm going through different art forms in my head. Sometimes if somebody wants to do a performance and they need help, like part of the budget is to like do a social media push to get word out about the performance. I've seen that included before. That one's some of them you just make sure you have some documentation to make your under the budget documentation part to make it look like you didn't just make up numbers, you know, that you have some backup to kind of show where you're coming up with that. Does that help? Okay, cool. I don't think I see any more questions in the chat. Would anyone else like to unmute and ask a question?
Yeah, I have one quick question as kind of a follow-up there. So I know my initial question was about if the roster is kind of rotating or it's a kind of fluid sort of makeup. Is it possible if you pare down that roster for the particular project that you're seeking support for? Like in our instance, it's likely for a recording project, and if you know you're only going to have this number of people on it, would that be acceptable or would it still be ineligible because the greater roster of the group itself outside of the record is larger?
Ooh, that's tricky. I think consistency is best. Like if there's a specific group of, I don't know, musicians or whatever who you want to record, we need to know who those people are so that we can verify eligibility. I'm also, you were very quiet and a truck drove by, so I had a hard time hearing you. Does that answer your question or do you need more?
No, I think that answers it. Hopefully you can hear me a little bit better now. No, I think that answers it. You know, we're looking at doing a recording project and it would involve travel to wherever the studio is, so we wouldn't have full forces. So that was the only reason why I asked that question.
Yes. And if you were able to say the specific people who are getting recorded, travel is a very appropriate kind of expense to include in your budget. Yes. Other questions? I want to commend you all for attending this information session on July 22nd when this application is not due until September 1st. So you have so much time to think, write some stuff down, realize you have a question, reach out to Alyssa, get some clarity, and submit the strongest application possible. Like you have time to do that. As Alyssa suggested, don't wait to the last minute. Usually last minute work is not your best work. And remember, the panelists will be familiar with your art form, but they will not be familiar with you. So as much evidence that you can provide in your application as possible as to put your body of work, your artist statement, your resume, anything that you could, so that they understand, so that they can start to learn who you are and what you envision for this project, would be helpful.
Okay, if anyone doesn't have any more questions, then we're going to go ahead and wrap up. Again, I said in the beginning of this session that a recording of this will be available on the United Arts website soon. So if you want to look back and just look back at the presentation, you can pop on that recording. And again, if you have any questions about the application, eligibility, or any questions about your project or the process, feel free to email me. And if you want like one-on-one consultations, again, feel free to email me. I think we can put my email in the chat. So we're gonna go ahead and wrap up. I hope you all
Oh,
have a great
sorry.
rest
Can
of
I
the
ask a quick question real quick? Just one more.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, just wondering, is there what kind of is there follow-up that you guys do like after you award grants? Do you guys stay in contact about how the project's going or, you know, at the end of the year for, you know, what the grant the year that the grant represents? Do you guys come back and go like, hey, can we like just get an update on if that project went to completion? I'm just curious.
So
For sure. Let me
yes,
answer that. Yeah, we do. Because this is money that is, that we are giving to you to do the project. So a couple things. First, we have a meeting of all grantees, a virtual meeting kind of like this one at the beginning of like in January sometime, so that you understand kind of what it means to be a grantee. Then throughout the year, Alyssa will check in a time or two to see how things are going. You'll notice that one of the questions in the application is what's your project completion date? If that project completion date is within the time frame, invite us. We want to come see stuff firsthand if it's appropriate. Some projects aren't appropriate for us to watch or to come and see, but some are. So keep us informed of everything. And then at the end, there is absolutely a final report that we want to know that you spent the funds the way that you said you were going to spend the funds, and the project that you proposed is done. So yes, yes, yes.
Okay, great. That's awesome. Thank you.
Okay, so if no one else has any more questions, I'm gonna go ahead and let you all go. And happy writing your applications. And again, if anyone has any questions, be sure to email me. All right, thank you guys for joining. Bye.